All right. Zap. Oh, is this not going to work for me? My phone's been bugging already. You're kidding, right? Share. Let's share this. Okay. Control C. All right. Start in a few moments. Welcome. Start momentarily. Start in a few seconds. We got a lot to talk about this weekend, and some news just popped up today that we're gonna talk about. 10 seconds and I'll start. Oops. Here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome back for episode 11 of the Benny in the Booth podcast. Boy, do we have a lot to talk about. The Army-Navy game, which actually ended up being a good game this year. NFL Week 14, with a lot of mixed bags from this week. Bunch of NFL news that popped up literally in the last couple of hours, literally. Predictions for next week and more on this episode. Let's get into it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back for episode 11 of the podcast. Thank you for everyone's support to this point for this podcast. Once again, as I said on the last episode, if we could get this channel to 75, between 75 and 100 by New Year's, I will be doing a Q&A in beginning most likely of 2022. Let's get in. Also, to all any Jews are watching this, hope your fast is going well, or if you're somehow in Israel or something, that went well. And yeah, let's get into this. Army Navy going in. It seemed like Army would be the heavy favorite, being 8-3, and Navy being 3-8. But I said, this, you never know with this rivalry. You never know with college football. And boy, was I right. Army-Navy. Early on, they trade off touchdowns. Then Army put up 2 field goals to go up 13-7. Navy then put up 10 unanswered points, a touchdown followed by a field goal. They were able to hold off Army on a 4th down and seal up a win to beat Army 17-13. So like I said, you never know with this rivalry. It could seem like it's predictable by the records and numbers, but then the next thing you know, absolutely not, and the underdog wins. That's the fun of college football. I didn't even realize that. Then again, I didn't watch much of the it was on Shabbos, so that's interesting. Someone in the live chat saying that Army was carrying American flags through a tunnel. Then again, honestly, I feel like they probably do that every year, but then again, maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, I'd have to look more into it to, I guess, confirm it or not confirm it. But that's what happened with Army-Navy. Big surprise in the result. But then again, like I said, in that rivalry, you just never know until you see how the game unfolds. Let's get into NFL Week 14. Steelers-Vikings Thursday Night Football. The Vikings came out with, maybe vengeance isn't the right word, but they came out with a fury, putting up pretty much what looked like they were going to have a dominating early. I think it was like 23-0 or something like that in a blink of an eye. And it looked like they were going to be able to win this game pretty easily. But Pittsburgh fought their way back and got within a touchdown, but just through the hands of their tight end Pat Freiermuth, what could have set up a tied game. Instead, Minnesota barely ekes out a win, 36-28 at home Thursday night. Sunday, the game I went to, Ravens at the Browns. This was, it's always fun to go to these games, even though the stadium's not the greatest. Went with my dad. Thanks again to him that we were able to go, and Hashem. It's not the greatest stadium, but it's nice for what it's there for a football game. You have a pretty good background to it, and it's pretty much what I remembered it from before in a good way. Before I had gone Sunday. But anyways, the Browns jumped out early, and they put up an emphatic statement, going up 24-3 at one point. Baker did throw a pick, which led to that 3 points. They were up 24-3. It felt like, okay, I mean, like, how can it's not 24-3? Lamar Jackson got hurt and eventually was ruled out, and they had Tyler Huntley in. It felt like, okay, we should be able to win this game. All of a sudden, the Ravens fought their way back. shutting out the Browns in the entire second half, getting it to 24-22, recovering an onside kick, which was botched by the Browns. And all of a sudden, it looked like, okay, are the Ravens about to win this game? But thankfully, on 4th and 6, Denzel Ward was able to stop a pass that was caught, but he was able to stop it way short of the first down. And the Browns barely, by the skin of their teeth, eke out a win 24-22 over the Ravens, and a crucial split with the Ravens this year, keeping their playoff hopes alive. Though this week's game got a little bit interesting with the news that just came out. We'll get into that later on. Next up, Dallas and Washington football team. This was a blowout early. Dallas was all over Washington football team early on. Heineke was in. Kyle Allen was in. It was a mess early on. Dallas was up like 27-8 or so. And it looked like they were also going to be cruising. But all of a sudden, football team started fighting back. But in the end, Dallas was too much for Washington as they win the first round matchup of this battle, 27-20 at Washington. What was interesting was they brought in their own benches for this game, which really was just like, what in the world? And a big surprise, like kind of weird. Like you don't often see that, like a road team bringing their own benches to their game. On like the sidelines, not like from the the stadium seats itself. But anyways, Dallas wins 27-20. Next up, Titans at Jaguars. This was all Tennessee. Trevor Lawrence was bad. Basically, not much of a matchup. Titans win 20-0. Next up, Houston, Seattle. Houston tried to put up a fight, but it wasn't really much. Seattle was rolling and couldn't be stopped as they win their game 33-13 against the Texans. Chiefs hosting the Raiders, the second time they've played this year. Darren Waller was out for the Raiders, and that was pretty much all you need to say from this game. Josh Gordon having his first touchdown in a couple of years. They actually had a pick six. I think it was pick six or fumble recovery for a touchdown early, but their offense was rolling. Everyone was being used, not just Hill, not just Kelsey, but McCole Hardman was getting involved. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was getting involved. And you really saw that Chiefs offense that we've known from past years. And their defense also stepped up, which is big for them and bad for everyone else. But they rolled all over the Raiders. And even a backup running back, I forget his first name, but Gore even got a touchdown for his own. Chiefs roll all over the Raiders, 48-9, sweeping the regular season series of that one. Next up, the Saints and the Jets. The score does not tell you the story of this game. Taysom Hill was whack. Eventually, he started clicking, but even in general, he was just whack off his game. It was early on, close, but eventually the Saints started clicking and rolled on, winning this game 39. But this does not tell the story of the game. The highlights tell better. I can guarantee that after watching the highlights. The highlights tell the story way better than the score does. Trust me on that. Or you could go watch it for yourself if you want. Falcons at Panthers. Again, another game where the score does not tell you the story of this game because Cam Newton was bad. And after that Cardinals game, you thought, okay, maybe he's starting to get something. This game derailed any hope. He was bad. PJ Walker even came in. He sucked even worse. They got it close, but it was really all Atlanta on this game, winning 29-21. Next up, Chargers at Giants. Thought Jake Fromm was maybe going to start, but and Mike Lennon did start. Didn't help them much because they still got a whooping by the Chargers. The score kind of does, but kind of doesn't. But they were just whooping the Giants defense. The Giants barely able to put up some points, but it was all Chargers on this day, 37-21. Next up, Denver at Detroit. I don't know if the death happened. I think it happened between the last couple episodes. So just to fill you in, just in case you don't know, Demaryius Thomas, who's a former receiver for the Denver Broncos, was part of their two Super Bowl runs, including the one where they won it in Super Bowl 50, died at the age of 33. And they commemorated him before the game opening snap. They had only 10 men on the field. They got penaltied. They decided to take delay of game penalty, which the Lions declined, so it didn't have much of an effect. But I think in the end, the Lions wish they didn't decline because they got their butts handed to them. Absolutely handed to them, 38-10. And then after a pick they had late Denver, they also, all the defense players ran to the 88 not flag, I guess kind of sticker, but not sticker, that they had on the sideline to celebrate in memory of Demaryius Thomas. His jersey number was 88. Either way, Denver wins 38-10. Next up, Bengals hosting the Niners. And this game, especially once the Browns won, was big. And I'll say this before. If the Bengals lost this game, the Browns would be second place in the division. So this game, it looked early on like the Niners were going to win this game, taking a big time lead early on, but then all of a sudden the Bengals fought their way back to tie it. In the end, the Niners were barely able to eke out a win on a touchdown that was originally called out of bounds, but after replay it was clear enough that he did not step out of bounds. He had hit the pylon over enough, touchdown, game over. Niners win 26-23 in overtime, and the Browns are in second place in the AFC North. Thanks to that, because of the tiebreaker of the fact that they beat the Bengals already once this year. Bills at Buccaneers. This game was also a wipeout early on, but the Bills fought their way back. They had 4th and 2 right by the end zone, and a lot of people are criticizing the fact that they went for a field goal. I also don't think it was the smartest idea, especially the fact that they faced Brady before. Yes, it's a different coach, but they faced Brady. They know what he can do. And in overtime, threw a touchdown to Perryman, who ended up taking it a long way for a game-winning touchdown. Buccaneers win 33-27. That might start icing up the division of the AFC East unless the Bills really start winning and the Patriots somehow start on a slip. I think you could say that the Patriots might have the division in the bag. I'm not ruling out their playoff chances, especially since like they literally in the AFC, spoiler, even though I wait usually for the record, there's currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams at 7-6, and they're all within range. 2 are in the playoffs, the rest are not. And it's the Bills, the Browns, the Bengals, the Colts, and the Broncos. All the same record in the playoff race, which is really interesting. Probably will change at some point down the line, but we'll see what happens. Bears at Packers, Sunday Night Football. The Bears actually got off to a good start, but the Packers eventually just ramped it up, took on a whooping early. Though the Bears had 2 touchdowns called off of them on special teams blunders by the Packers. A fumble that the guy couldn't take it forward progress for a touchdown. But anyways, was called back, I think, on a penalty, or it wasn't a fumble, something like that. And then another botch, but also couldn't advance it for a touchdown. Literally, if those 2 touchdowns were added, they could have won this game, because it ended up being 45-30, but they left 14 points more, depending on if you go for 2 or not. That could have been a whole different story had those actually been touchdowns. Packers, maybe not lucky, because one of them technically was called back on a flag as well. But Packers kind of got lucky with that, winning this game 45-30. But they did not clinch the NFC North, because the Vikings won on Thursday night. And the last game of the week, the Rams hosting the Rams at the Cardinals. Rams were all over this game. Kyler Murray, not the greatest game. They did try to fight back, but it was all Rams in this game. Winning this game 30-23, which happens to be this was the last chance for someone to clinch this week, because if the Cardinals would have won, automatically they would have clinched a playoff spot. So nobody clinched this week. We did have a couple of eliminations, like the Lions are officially eliminated mathematically. The Jets are, and a bunch of other teams. I'm forgetting who else off the top of my head, but a bunch of teams are officially eliminated now. So that's the story from week 14. So the standings update, I'll probably start getting more into AFC, NFC standings within the next couple of weeks, because those are going to matter more, especially with the playoff setup for wildcard spots. But for now, for this week, I'm just going to stick to regular way I do this, or I might do both. I have to see. We'll see when I start writing the notes for next week, which won't be for some time. But anyways, update the standings. AFC East, Patriots still up top at 9-4, followed by the 7-6 Bills, followed by the 6-7 Dolphins, followed by the 3-10 Jets. AFC North, the Ravens up top at 8-5, followed by the Browns who are 7-6, followed by the Bengals who are also 7-6, but the Browns have the tiebreaker because they've beaten the Bengals already once. They don't play each other till last week of the season, so we won't know whether it's a sweep or a split, followed by the 6-6-1 Steelers. In the AFC South, it's the 9-4 Titans up top, followed by the 7-6 Colts, followed by the 2-11 Texans and 2-11 Jaguars. In the AFC West, you have the 9-4 Chiefs up top, followed by the 8-5 Chargers, followed by the 7-6 Broncos, followed by the 6-7 Raiders. For the NFC East, you have the 9-4 Cowboys up top with their barely win, followed by the 6-7 football team and Eagles, followed by the 4-9 Giants. And NFC North, the 10-3 Packers, followed by the 6-7 Vikings, followed by the 4-9 Bears, followed by the 1-11-1 Lions. NFC South, Buccaneers up top at 10-3, followed by the 6-7 Falcons and Saints, followed by the 5-8 Panthers. NFC West, 10-3 Cardinals up top, followed by the 9-4 Rams, followed by the 7-6 Niners, followed by the 5-8 Seahawks. And that's the standings update. My predictions actually really went well this week. I went 11-3 predictions, and overall with the podcast, I am 82-48-1. Pretty satisfied with those. Before we get into the predictions, there was a big drop of news regarding the Cleveland Browns today. They have already had some COVID issues, and today they had a bomb more of it, or I should say, maybe I shouldn't say that word because I know YouTube does have issues with people actually saying the word, but you know what I mean. But basically, they had 8 more people land on that list in the names of Jarvis Landry, Austin Hooper, Jedrick Wills, Wyatt Teller, Drew Forbes, Tack McKinley, Jojo Natson, and Ross Travis. The bigger ones is everybody but Jojo Natson and Ross Travis. Natson, not as much. He's returned more of, and they have Demetric Felton. Travis, I honestly didn't even know much about. So, but the other 6 are big, especially with them being injured in the tight end department right now, in the wide receiver department. And people they already had on the COVID list in tight end David Njoku, Anthony Walker, and Jamie Gillian. They had to have a new punter. Actually had a pretty good punting game this week. But yeah, big drop of news. We'll see if that affects whether the Browns will play Saturday or if maybe the game gets moved up to Sunday or something. But it's gonna be interesting to watch out on that perspective. But anyways, let's get into this week's predictions. And I'm going to do this as if normal schedule because we don't know what, as of today at 3:38 p.m., we don't know what changes could happen based on the COVIDs. And it could be the way that there's no changes, which would suck for the Browns really much. But we're going to do the predictions as of the normal schedule. Thursday Night Football, you have the Chiefs at Chargers. The Chargers have had a good run, but I mean, like, they've had an upset against Kansas City on Thursday Night Football, and actually, now that I think about it, I think the Chargers did win the first time. But both teams are very different since. Chiefs now being on an uproar, and Chargers middle of the pack, I would say. But I do have the Chiefs winning this game. Saturday, these 2 weeks, this week and next week, are going to have Saturday football. 2 games this week. I think it's also 2 games next week. The Browns hosting the Raiders. Now, obviously, the COVID thing is one thing to focus on. But there's 2 other aspects I would tell you to focus on. One, Darren Waller, because he is what that offense functions around. Now, don't get me wrong. They have a lot of other threats. They have Hunter Renfrow, Josh Jacobs, the other tight ends. I'm forgetting the name, but he's pretty good. But Darren Waller is what that offense runs a lot through. And you saw by the fact that they only put up 8 points last week that that's what they revolve around. So if he's out, that's huge. Now with the COVID, I'm not as much as a guarantee if it's not as much of a problem, I'm almost ready to say, and Waller's out, obviously, I'm almost ready to say the Browns will win. I do have hope, and my pick is the Browns, but right now, who knows? But the other factor is it's supposed to rain on Saturday, and last year the weather was also a messy situation, and the Raiders won that game. So keep an eye on those factors. I do have the Browns winning this game, but who knows, honestly, especially with the weather. Now, COVID being a mess, who knows? I'm still hoping. I mean, they need this win. Theoretically, they could lose a game or two and still have a realistic chance of the playoffs, but they got to practically, or if not basically, win out. And they don't have an easy schedule to win out. But then again, I also was looking at the rest of the AFC North. No one in the AFC North has an easy schedule coming up. The last Saturday football game for this week is Patriots at Colts. I have the Patriots. Could be an interesting game, but I do have the Patriots. The rest of the games are Sunday and Monday. Sunday games, Panthers at Bills, I have Bills. Jets at Dolphins, I have Dolphins. Football team at Eagles, I have football team. Cardinals at Lions, I have Cardinals. Dallas at Giants, I have Dallas. Titans at Pittsburgh, I have Titans. Texans at Jaguars, I have Jaguars. And I was actually surprised. I was looking up. I do a lot of these predictions based off the ESPN like prediction thing they have with their fantasy stuff. And a lot of people are actually picking Jacksonville this week. I mean, it could be the percentages is more based off the pick'em league setup I'm in, but even so, I was still surprised by that. But I do have Jacksonville. Cincinnati at Denver, I have Cincinnati. Atlanta at San Francisco, I have San Francisco. Green Bay at Baltimore, I have Green Bay. This could also be an interesting game, though hope Lamar Jackson back. I honestly am not as much of a care about it, especially since we don't play the Ravens again this year. But it wasn't too severe. They say he could be back. They say he'll probably be back this week, but keep an eye definitely, especially for Packer fans. I do have the Packers either way, but it will be more interesting if Lamar does play than if he doesn't, and it's Huntley. Seahawks at Rams. I have Rams. Sunday Night Football, Saints at Buccaneers, which should not be Sunday Night Football. It should be the Packers and Ravens for just to put that out there. But Saints and Buccaneers, I have Buccaneers. Monday Night Football being the Vikings at Bears, I have the Vikings. And that is the NFL Week 15 predictions. And, well, because there's not much college football till basically one second. Till basically I think it literally the bowl games start this Friday in a couple of days. But obviously I'm not going to be covering bowl games for a while because it's the non-as important. New Year's Eve and New Year's are the ones that are going to be covered on this podcast. And I will do my predictions for those. I do want to note, I was looking at, they have like a bowl prediction thing on ESPN. I did it for fun. And I was looking at Ohio State, Utah. It was a crazy percentage. It could be changed since, and I do want to look to see. But when I first look, and let me give context to this before so you can maybe more understand why I thought this was crazy at the time. It's Utah, who happens to be ranked lower at 11, but is a conference champion against Ohio State, who's not a conference champion, but is ranked higher at 6. And when I first looked and was doing these predictions, 86% of people were picking Ohio State. And it kind of like shocked me. I'm interested to see if it changed at all. 82% Ohio State, 18% Utah. And that shocks me. Now, don't get me wrong, my pick's Ohio State, but I'm just shocked at how much of a margin it like truly is of people picking one way or another. It just really caught me off guard. I'm like, see, really? But don't get me wrong, my pick is Ohio State. The line is more realistic to that. It's 6.5 in favor of Ohio State. But it kind of shocked me that percentage more people are picking Ohio State when they're not even the conference champion of the Big Ten. But hey, either way, my pick's Ohio State. That is this week's podcast. There wasn't a lot to talk about, but I did have some stuff. And let's wrap this up. Thanks for coming back for episode 11 of the podcast. Next week we'll have NFL Week 12 to talk. NFL Week 15 to talk about. We'll see what happens with all these COVID messes and injuries. We'll have NFL Week 16 to predict. Maybe I'll talk about bowl games. Maybe something happens in the NBA I could talk about. I don't know what else could be. But thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're new down below. Leave a notification bell on so you're notified when I go live or post a video. And keep in mind, if we get between 75 and 100 by New Year's, by 12 o'clock on New Year's, I will do a Q&A in the beginning of 2022. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. To those that are still fasting, have an easy fast. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.